seasonal adjustments, which was the largest decline since October of '06. The core consumer price index, which excludes food and energy prices, did, however, rise 0.2% after rising 0.3% the previous 2 months. And in some other relatively positive news, crude oil futures fell 5% this morning, pressured by turbulence in the global financial markets as well as OPEC's lowering of its forecast for world oil demand. Crude oil for October delivery dropped to $91 a barrel in electronic trading. Investors are dumping riskier assets, according to an analyst, in favor of stable currencies and government bonds. OPEC this morning lowered its forecast for world oil demand growth for 2008 to 1.02% from 1.17%. That means that world oil demand growth has been revised downward now by 900,000 barrels a day in 2008. OPEC cited an unexpectedly strong decline in oil demand in North America. That's what will happen when the price goes up too much. Oil futures would normally have been impacted upward with this next story. Nigerian rebels have been fighting government forces in Nigeria for a third day in the country's southern oil region down near Bonny Island. Fighters from the Movement for the Emancipation of the Niger Delta, or MEND, attacked an oil installation in the Niger Delta region before dawn Monday, sparking an hour-long battle with the Nigerian military. The attack occurred on an oil pumping station operated by Royal Dutch Shell. No government troops were injured, although part of the structure is thought to have been damaged. The attack came a day after MEND declared an oil war against foreign-owned oil companies working in the region. The group said it had launched a hurricane of violence to destroy flow stations and oil pipelines. 22 Nigerian soldiers were reported killed. Royal Dutch Shell, ExxonMobil, Total, and Chevron are among the numerous oil companies operating in the Niger Delta. We'll now go to a word from our sponsors and come back with the rest of the news.
Every day, the world wakes up and goes to work, pursuing the unique opportunities that lead the global economy forward. The complexity and close connectivity of today's global marketplace is a true modern miracle that can create unparalleled success. But it takes confidence, passion, innovation, and understanding.
Enabling opportunity.
Protecting capital.
Engineering innovation. Investing in your future.
Ensuring continuity.
Finding the right balance.
It takes Aon.
From prehistoric time to today, man's progress has been marked by his ability to fashion tools and use them to his advantage. From early humans making tools from stone, man evolved and was soon trading with other men. Money evolved, and tools such as the abacus to handle complex money transactions were developed. By the end of the 19th century, machines, such as the cash register, began to appear. 100 years later, we have even better computer-driven machines which track stock, change prices, and automatically reorder. Meanwhile, the reinsurance industry has failed to embrace man's drive for progress. The reinsurance industry today would be as familiar to practitioners from the 1800s as it is to modern underwriters. An underwriter or broker from 1800 would settle nicely into today's business. That is, until now. For the reinsurance industry, pivot point changes everything. Soon it will be understood that the period before pivot point was as dark as the caveman period was before the abacus. Come and see for yourself if you don't believe. After a demonstration, you will understand what is possible.
AIG is down to $2.26 a share now, before we start with the second half of the news. That's unbelievable, isn't it? The Hartford Courant is reporting this morning from Connecticut that Ike could be the third most costly hurricane ever for insurers. They're saying that insured damage from Hurricane Ike could range from $6 billion to $18 billion. However, it would not be enough to significantly weaken the insurance industry. Although an official estimate will not be out for a few weeks, the industry's Insurance Information Institute said yesterday that Ike might result in more than $11 billion of claims. That's based on an analysis of early estimates from cat modeling firms. So even at $11 billion, Ike would be the third most costly hurricane for insurers based on inflation-adjusted figures for past storms, placing it behind Katrina and Andrew. Ike would also be the fifth most expensive insurance event in U.S. history, behind the 9/11 attacks, the Northridge earthquake in '94. Ike, a massive storm that hit Galveston, Texas early Saturday as a strong Category 2 and rolled through Houston, is expected to be, quote, manageable given the current overall capital strength of the industry. This is according to AM Best. Ike is likely to wipe out third quarter earnings for some P&C insurers that have a material amount of business in the affected area. The Texas Windstorm Insurance Association's cash on hand will likely be tapped dry after paying Ike-related claims. That could lead to upward pressure on premiums for consumers and lower tax revenues for the state. The Windstorm Association, which sells windstorm insurance in the state's coastal counties, has about $370 million in its cat reserve trust fund to pay claims. It also has about $1.5 billion in reinsurance coverage. All told then, the association has about $2.1 billion in funding before it starts assessing insurance companies with unlimited assessments. Insurers may pass those assessments on to policyholders. It's too early to say how much Ike will cost the association, but the association had $38 billion in direct exposure in the counties most affected by the hurricane. It had 225,000 policyholders as of September 1st. The association's model projected that if a Cat 3 storm had hit Galveston, Ike was a strong 2, that they would have to pay out up to $6 billion in claims. So, after the reinsurance is used up, the association can hit companies with unlimited assessments. Insurers pay assessments based on their Texas market share. State Farm paid $13.8 million in the first round of assessments after Hurricane Dolly hit South Texas earlier this year. Farmers Insurance paid $9.3 million in the same round, and Allstate paid $9.2 million. Farmers Insurance is bracing for assessments from the Wind Pool Association. Its president said there's no question that we would expect an assessment from them. Farmers Insurance expects industry-wide assessments by the TWIA totaling $200 to $300 million, said a spokesman for Farmers Insurance. Next door, Louisiana state-run property insurer of last resort says that they will not be hobbled by the damage claims of Gustav and Ike. This is according to Insurance Commissioner Jim Donelon. He said that the Louisiana Citizens Property Insurance Company has received 26,000 Gustav claims so far, and he estimates the storm will cost it $150 million. Citizens can handle it with the cash it has on hand. As for Ike, Donelon said he expects far fewer claims because the storm damages in Louisiana were largely from flooding, and Citizens did not cover flood damage, only wind coverage. So much finally for the natural disasters. There's been an update on the crash of the MD-80 in Spain. Spanish investigators probing last month's crash in Madrid have determined that the wing flaps used to provide extra lift during takeoff had in fact failed to deploy. However, the pilots of the plane were unaware of this because the cockpit alarm that was supposed to warn them did not go off. The investigators did not say, however, that this caused the Spanair crash, and they offered no hypothesis as to what may have triggered Spain's worst air disaster in 25 years. The findings were drawn from the plane's flight data and cockpit voice recorder. The data recorder showed no evidence of problems with the plane's two engines. Flaps, of course, are movable panels on the trailing edge of a plane's wings and provide lift during takeoff. A loud alarm should have gone off in the cockpit, but it did not. Some of the 18 survivors have said that the plane struggled to gain altitude during takeoff. No kidding. Some news from Pakistan that the government has ordered the military to open fire on American forces if U.S. troops launch another air or ground raid across the Afghan border. Public demonstrations have also broken out in protest of the U.S. actions. There, as you know, if you watch this program, there have been apparently 3 reported efforts by U.S. Special Forces troops in the tribal regions up in Waziristan going after al-Qaeda hideouts. The orders came from the Pakistan